Hello and welcome. This is the Harbor Night. I'm Mary. I'll give a conservative perspective about the world around me. Feedback is immensely important. Feel free to reach out to me. Email is a good way to start. And then, of course, I appreciate YouTube comments. Alright, so word of mouth is important and it works. Feel free to spread out the knowledge or the awareness that is about my podcast. All you gotta do, say, hey, have you heard of the show, The Harbor Light? To co-workers, loved ones, what have you. Just say, type in The Harbor Light, you find it. Alright, so, on to the topic of choice. Now, I'm going to get into the facts about food marketing. And I'm just going to boil it down from what I gathered from it. And on a really good example that represents that, I think, from my point of view, quite well. And is continuing it out. And I think that the chain, the Wendy's, really carries food marketing out quite well. And I'll get into the reasons why. Alright, with that said, let's get in and talk about it. Okay, so these are the things that I gathered from finding out information about food marketing. Alright? On top of things I've seen before and everything else. So essentially it boils down to the aspects of aesthetically, how does it look, right? And how fast you gather the information on what you're looking at. With that boils down to the labels. Alright, so let's say where from bread to ice cream, to mayonnaise, or something like that, pickles, things like that, And it's quite interesting, and all the information that I have will be linked for you. Quite interesting. In the source that I read, they were saying that the front part of the label is people pay more attention to. What does it give you? What is it intended to you? All the way to things for the cleaning for the home, things like that. That's all in it too. The body, everything. Right? So what is it saying to you? What are they? What is the expectation? What is the product about? If all of that is clearly presented in the front, that's what do you call it? As this is a communication term that from my wheelhouse here. Putting your that is called an actual theory, the footstep in the door. So the footstep in the door is associated. Now this can be associated with other things if you, I guess, want to go down that rabbit hole. But essentially a footstep in the door is associated and terms used for immersing yourself and into into a job, the job culture, right? So I associate this with the aspects of, okay, how does the juxtaposition work? Okay, when you think about foot step in the door, and you're thinking about getting that job, and then you landing that job, right? You have to make sure that, everything is in line for them to first, when you get the interview, them to pay attention to you and to see what do you have to offer to be a part of our company. Once you meet those marks and everything is good for you to go, you get hired, you get on, then you got to make sure that you fit properly with the work culture and the environment in which that is a part of the company. And that sounds strange. It's like, well, that's why they hired you. Why wouldn't you fit into the work culture? Sometimes that doesn't, those things don't kind of, aren't so copacetic, right? And so anyway, it's always good to have that. That's why it's always good to have those things in line to make sure that this is what you actually want. And these are the products that you actually want. And so that's why food marketeers make sure that the labels in the front are aesthetically working for you, so you can make those decisions precisely, more without having to hunt or search for it. It's just right there for you, clearly. And it's quite interesting because I go into the aspects of talking about how, all you simply have to do is, if you want it to more really, they take into consideration about the aspects that people don't necessarily want to take the time to read in depth, which isn't accountable for everybody. Me, myself, I like to take both into account. And this is why I say this. Well, it's really a good thing. I take it as a good thing. So I had to learn early on about nutrition facts, right? And it's very important to take those things into consideration, especially, when you're thinking about calorie counting and all these kind of things. And then you also with the aspects of, on top of that, what you're putting in your body. But on top of that, what you're putting in your hair, what you're putting on your skin, all these things. They have merit, right? And so also the aspects of the ideas of that the psychology too takes into the consideration of the color scheme. Now, me personally, as I've said in other podcasts previously, I am, you could say that's my personality. That I chose that, in a different extent. But, I'm really pushing that out there more now than I've done when I was in the traditional job market there. I still am, like I said, in the job market, but in a more self-made way, you can say, with running my own podcast here. But the aspects of design, graphic design, visuals, that's really, I really enjoy that. That's really a part of me. I really like that. It's really something special to me. And so when I notice something that aesthetically or from design wise, I really look at it, right? And so there's really something to be said about the aspects of what colors mean to cultures and what colors mean to certain people. Because there's a lot of evidence and everything else that comes with it. Now, I said this in a previous episode about the aspects of color, and I would encourage y'all to go and check that out about the aspects of that. But with me, when I talked about specifically with Valentine's Day and the aspects of color schemes and everything, I would encourage y'all to check that out. All right, so get back to it now. Some of the aspects of green, right? For example, now green is supposed to be, especially when a company uses that color scheme for their labels or for their product, that is supposed to represent that it's natural, right? And so you're automatically telling the consumer, okay, this is going to be a organic sort of product that is good for me, right? So there you go. And then, when you get into the aspects about food, right, and food-based products, right, and when you see those labels, green labels, oh, that means, this is going to be some sort of health thing, okay? If that's what you're looking for, you look for, those, that the food marketeers are betting on that psychology that's going to work, right? And so, the list goes on. Okay, you see something with, they say red, if you combine red and yellow together, red and yellow is what associated for something that enables action, quick action. And so now McDonald's really has the key on that because of the arches and then, the red labels. So they really knew what they were doing when they done that. So with that said, I'm going to get on to a really good example about it. All right, here we go. All right, so getting back to it. Okay, so before I get into that really good example, I want to extend a little bit out to it too, because I find it quite interesting in the aspects of, color schemes and psychology and, visually how things flow. I think if to a lesser extent that does work quite well because, if we are honest with our, some people, they understand that, normal people understand that we are visual creatures here, or visual, humans are visual people there. And, if something aesthetically looks right, something, you naturally, organically looks appealing, you are going to pay attention. And so when food marketers get that right, They also went into the aspects of saying, and which I've had experience about that, interesting enough. In my college days, I did an intern, and then in the intern, I interned with she was very phenomenal, a food photographer, and she did other things, but primarily her trade was food photography, and it was just really, it's something else to see her at work and to see what she was doing. So what she did was, one time, among other things that she showed me and she talked to me about, there was a professional chef, and he was in the launch, in the midst of creating and getting everything down and sorting everything out, with a cookbook, right? And so, she was telling me, the lighting goes without saying. But what's really important is to get the bearer of the bearer of everything is in the details, right? And so when you get those details correct, then hey, you're golden. People are really going to pay attention, and people are going to be really appetized to want to cook those recipes and to want to buy that product from the menu. She understood that quite well. And then, needless to say, the food that he was cooking, and then all of that and how it was prepared, it was really good. It was, good, great. I enjoyed. I had a good time. And then also, anyway, it's also something to be said about that. Sometimes you get into the aspects of being persnickety, but that really is something else to say with the aspects of talking about how, paying really meticulous details to something as, like a lemon or like a lime or like an orange or something. When you go into the grocery store and you want to present these things, when you want to present these things on camera, it's got to get that right too. And so that goes a lot to be said, to add on to for my personal understanding about the aspects of making sure that's right with the images of food and everything else. And on top of the aspects of the psychology that comes behind colors and everything else on top of it. Now, okay, moving on to the aspects of really good example that put all of those things in mind is, to me, Wendy's. Now, why do I say this? Now, Dave Thomas, rest his soul. God rest his soul. He's no longer here. Now, he passed on in 2002, I believe. And when he started, this is really the quintessential aspects of why America is sought after, and why hard work and determination really means something. Because it's that rags to riches story. But the understanding you get behind this story is that not feeling entitled and not having this, which is the difference in between generations and the difference in between, unfortunately what we see going on today in the mainstream. When you call that, when you talk about this whole aspects of accept the, everybody is shows up for a medal, gets a medal, inclusiveness, or this aspects of I'm entitled to this because I said so, or this Disney adult aesthetic, or this, that. No, he really pulled himself up and put the work in and kept trying and kept going because he wanted to do something. He wanted to make more and do more and thrive more. And it worked in his success. But also at the same time, he is a really good example of you don't necessarily have to take the traditional route. in order to find success. Now, I don't advocate the aspects of dropping out, particularly of dropping out of high school. I don't advocate that. I don't advocate the aspects of not. And here's why I'm saying this. Because it's always important to have in the back of your mind to have a strong foundation in education. Where that high school is a strong foundation for that. Now, when you get beyond high school, see, that's different because, if college works for you, go that route. But there's also, alternatives beyond college, because college isn't say all be all. And then, college isn't for everyone. And then college, I see it as if you do it right, college can really work for you. And if you just don't know what you want to do, if you don't have any clear goals, you shouldn't really bother about college, because you're going to get swooped in and you're just going to be going there and don't have really any real marketable skills. And you're going to be, unfortunately, a lot of times be scooped into ideologies that are bad, that are conflicted, and then make you look like a jerkwite. And you're not. You're gonna be what you're gonna come out is more of an arrogant attitude than towards a well-rounded person who has valuable skills, who is very useful and needed and very flourishable for society. So that's what I think. Okay, when it comes to that, but when it so, he's a really good example of that, of the aspects that you can, when you make decisions like that, you can, sometimes it does work in your favor, but also, let's face it, that doesn't equate for, success for everybody. So when people, say, well, okay, I'm not a fan of Bill Gates, but you gotta call it for what it is. Bill Gates did drop out, and then Quentin Tarantino, there's something. I think he might have. I don't know. I'm not quite sure about Quentin Tarantino, but anyway, they're good examples of that. Right? They found their success by dropping out, right? Now, their skills, marketable skills, made them successful, okay? It doesn't equate for everybody else. You find what works for you, but you also make sure you have enough education to back that up. And then all of it with that education, both practical education to back that up, both of them. When you merge those together, that's something. Now, with Wendy's, the reason why I think it works really well and it implements the ideas of what food marketing at its finest can do is the whole aspects of the storyline, the aesthetics of visually pleasing, and also the following of it, and also the simplicity of the images. Right, so Dave Thomas himself, like I said, his storyline is impeccable. And also with the aspects, he always made sure that he implemented how important it is to be down to earth and how important it is family oriented aspects. And hold on just a minute. Hold on, baby girl. So to the extent of the little girl on on the labels, and then the little girl on the fast food restaurant that on the buildings is his daughter, right? And so he said the reason why he wanted to use his daughter because he wants you to know that I stand behind my products, because if I didn't think that these were top quality products, what I was giving to customers was top quality, I would not have my own daughter on my stores, on the merchandise, on the product. That I just wouldn't do that, because that in itself is ethically not right to say that something is good when it's not. And so he really got that right too, with the aspects of the power in which, marketing and catchphrases really work when you're flooded amongst a mirage of different, fast food places and all this kind of competition. He really knew how to cut that down. So first, by saying, when it was the burger wars in between him and McDonald's and everything else, he said, well, why? Because initially, bless you, baby girl. Initially, he started out, I said, okay, so I want my products to be like going to a malt shop. You get those square hamburgers, and you get your shakes and all of that. But the difference is between McDonald's and myself is that it's fresh to order, made to order. It's not frozen. That was very, very clear and very concise, and the commercials that was throughout the 80s, 90s, and so forth until the bitter end. He implemented that, how important freshness is, right? And that you don't have to wait for your order. We prepare it. You get it. There you go. And now, also, nobody's perfect, right? We're all human here. Nobody's perfect. We also, so when he moved on into the 1980s and so, when, especially, transitioning out from or we get to the later part of the 80s, so forth, on to the 90s, people were starting to be made more health conscious. Now, to his discretion, he did not want that, but it was implemented anyway, because it's one of those things which is something to be said about that. It's still implemented with the aspects of having a salad bar, and in the salad bar, that was another thing associated with freshness and getting people to notice and wanting to come to Wendy's because of that full experience. Going, hey, they have a salad bar. That's something now. Wow, I have a fast food place having a salad bar. That's really neat. Okay, And then not only the commercials, the catchphrases were gold. Like, to a certain generation, you remember these catchphrases, like the aspects of where's the beef, and that was so, impactful to where it went on into a campaign, a Democratic candidate in 1984 or so, Matthew or Walt. No, let me pull it up here. Hold on just a second here. Let's see. Yes, okay. 1984, Walter Mondale, phrased that, saying, in his Democratic campaign. Wait, hold on. Yeah, but it was unsuccessful though. Saying, where's the beef, right? Essentially saying, how wild is that? From a food chain, implying where's the beef is, where's the quality is what it's saying with Wendy's and Dave Thomas, and how impactful that food culture and has on our society, right? And how impactful advertisement has on our society, right? All right, so also there was drawbacks in the aspects of Wendy's. When we get into the 1990s, with the aspects of being really, they're trying to come up with ways in which being more aware and having healthy alternatives. The aspects of pitas and pita wraps. Now there was problems with that, with the aspects, the sauces, and then he was very transparent with that. Cutting it down with the aspects of that it's not the sauce. When people were noticing that he also could put customers first. When the customers will notice, hey, something's kind of funny with this. I don't know about this, and it was like, oh, okay, well, see, this is how the practices were as far as the sauces. Okay, maybe we should start doing that revamp and get back and not have this offered anymore, and then have a different way of using these kind of sauces, the sauces that were used in the pitas, and just take that off of the menu and do something else. See, being very transparent, say, hey, you come first, the customers. And so, unfortunately, when he passed on in 2002, around that time, in 2005, that was a new generation, starting a new generation, which, wanting to target younger audiences, instead of, the traditional route in which, advertisement, it ran, because, it was viewed that the young crowd, especially the males in which they were trying to attract, which, stop, baby girl, which is that target audience, 18 to 34. So it was on the assumption that they don't really trust traditional methods in which, being advertised, because of their whole negative connotation that they are lies, snake oil salesmen, this kind of thing. So they came up with rebranding themselves by, hey, we're gonna, in 2005, we're gonna offer you, because that was the time when it was first known for something to go viral, right? And so, we're going to send you this email attachment, and you can see, hey, it's hip to be square, right? And this whole idea of play on words for the aspects of, hey, baby girl, can you please stop? With the square patties, getting back to the basic of the square patties of Dave Thomas, and the reason, why it's like that, and then being educated in this gitchy kind of thing being presented. So that didn't land as much as they wanted it to, and then it was this, trial and error. And as I said on Monday about the aspects, that's what really goes on a lot with the, from my understanding. And then you can say that for a whole bunch of other stuff, but I don't know, it's really apparent when it comes to food marketing. Trial and error, and about what works. And then when it works really well when it comes to food marketing. And so, what now they have their pulse on is social media, right? And the thing in which to pay attention to, which I still think that Wendy's is still getting right, is the aspects is personal. You know, that human interest is what sets them apart among a whole bunch of other corporate companies that are on social media. Even, when they get clap back about their, hold on just a minute, I'm almost done, baby, clap back about their products, they present it in a really funny way, in which it's not overtly, abrasive, or it's just, and so I think that's where they get it right, and what's very cunning and unique, and why I think Wendy's is a really good example of food marketing at it can be at its finest. All right, so with that said, this it reaches the end of the Harboring Light, and I would like for y'all to give me your thoughts and get the extend the conversation. All right, so as I said in the beginning of the podcast, there's two ways to do this. You can either reach me through email, and of course, I enjoy the comments on YouTube. All right, so tune in, turn up, and definitely take care. Bye bye for now. I want to say bye.
Bye. Love you.